So why are contractor prices all over the place? Well, hang in there, give me about 5 to 10 minutes and I'll explain the process. And hopefully after this, when you start your next remodeling project, you'll know what to look for when hiring a contractor. Hey, I'm Jerry with A New Day Construction, and I just want to share with you the different levels of contracting, kind of understand the pricing structure and why. So hang in there, and hopefully after this video, you'll have some knowledge when you start your next remodeling project and picking a contractor. So let me break it down between small contractors, contractor companies, and then there's elite contractors. Those elite contractors, they're dealing with remodels that the preparation lasts up to 6 months before they even start. And these are remodels, kitchen remodels that are in the $150,000 range. So we're going to not talk about them today. That's a different level. But what we will talk about is the smaller contractors starting out and also your company ones. And what's the difference? Why is these estimates so different? So it's a big difference when you get an estimate between these two, and knowing the reason why will help you make a better decision when picking a contractor. Keep in mind that contracting is one of the only fields you can get into with no education, no training. You just start. Unfortunately, about 80 to 90%, much more like 90 to 95%, don't have any education in the construction field. They just learn by doing, and sometimes it'll get you in trouble, especially when you're starting out. Now, as you get more seasoned and get enough jobs under your belt, then things start coming together. So what you need to know is here, when you're dealing with a smaller contractor, they do lack experience. So they may not know some codes and stuff like that. And most likely, the smaller contractor does not have a general contractor's license. And if they are pulling permits, that means a general contractor is letting them use their license and paying them a fee to do so. The question you need to ask is that general contractor checking behind them. So that's what he should be doing. So it's not against the law for a general contractor to do that. It is if they're not checking behind the job. So they can lose their license if they do that. So making sure if you do have a small contractor pulling a permit for you and it's not in his name, then you might want to ask a general contractor to come out here and check on things. So that way they can look at it and make sure your job's done right. If they get you to pull your own permits, just be aware there's a reason why they're not pulling it. So be careful with that area, because those are things that you need to look out for in the smaller contractors. And so they don't have a lot of overhead or experience. And so when you get a quote from them, it's going to be a little less, of course, because they don't have as much overhead. So when you get to a construction company, that's when things come together. That's when you get fully licensed, well seasoned. They know what they're looking for. They've been to more training. You know, there's things that we do to help us get better in the industry. And I'm not saying these won't make it there. There are some that will. We did. So you just got to navigate through that and know what questions to ask. Estimates and change orders. So when you're getting your estimates, you want to make sure they're not vague. Because if you have a vague estimate from a contractor, it's well known, a little trick to capitalize on change orders. So making sure that when you get that estimate, it is very detailed and there's nothing missing. If it is, don't be afraid to go back and say, hey, I want to make sure this is in there. What you don't want to get into is change order hell. I say that lightly, but it's a real thing. So being careful not to fall in that trap, because once you're there, they're in the midstream of your job, and all of a sudden they're calling for change orders. You're stuck going, well, they got to finish the job. I don't have a choice. So preparing yourself in the beginning, making sure you protect yourself, is going to help you here. Now, usually your contracting companies are going to have very detailed estimates. And most, I don't know, I know what we do as far as what change orders come in. I don't like change orders. To me, they cause a rub between us and the customer. And so what we do on change orders, and I tell them before the job, there may be something that behind the wall we didn't see. So we handle those as just labor and materials. We don't do any markup. So it's that way, it makes a soft hit for them. We're taken care of and everybody's happy. Workmanship and quality. So this is an area that really pay attention to, because the smaller contractors, just keep in mind, it's hard for them. They have to really juggle jobs, because they can't start a job and then go estimate another one and start another one, because there's going to be some days in between they're not going to be working. So what they have to do is juggle a few jobs at a time to make everything work. And so that's where you get in trouble, because they're not going to be on your job every day. So making sure you ask those questions in the beginning. How many guys you have in your crew? Are you going to be here every day? Make them sign something in the contract to give them a deadline where they need to be done. They're going to be there every day. That way you're protected. And so sometimes when they're under the gun and you get customers holler at them, they get rushed. And when they get rushed, the job doesn't get done right. And when it comes to a contracting company, lot bigger. We have about 30 guys out in the field. And so when we start on the job, we stay on the job. Very rarely we'll pull off a job unless some type of emergency is happening, but it's a very rare thing. Our goal is to make sure we get that job done because we got to start another one after it. And if we don't, we start getting behind. It's hard for us to get caught up. This is a big one, insurance and licensing. And this is something that I've got other videos that really break this down in more detail. But in a nutshell, I will tell you that there's about 95% of the contractors out there who do not carry the proper workman's comp. And you wonder why? Because it's very expensive. The construction industry is one of the highest rated for workman's comp, and it's very expensive to get. And so usually the smaller ones, it's hard for them to get it. And so, making sure they have the right workman's comp and making sure everybody in their crew. In the state of Georgia, if you have 5 or less employees, you don't have to have workman's comp. And he's exactly right. The problem is that if they get hurt on your job or your house, they can sue you for that. And so making sure you're standing firm that they have workman's comp, they can actually show it to you, and you're able to call their insurance company to make sure it's still intact. Proper liability insurance is a must too, because if something happens, something falls, something breaks, the roof comes down, whatever, if they don't have the proper insurance, you'll be paying out of your insurance, and you don't want to do that. And so another trick that's in the industry that you need to look for is they'll go get insurance, they'll pay the down payment, they'll have the piece of paper, they'll cancel it, but the piece of paper still says expiration date a year later. So making sure you're calling that company and the insurance company, checking it, it's verified. So what we do, we actually put our customer's name as additional insurers. At our contract point, they actually get a piece of paper, an insurance paper that says, hey, your job is covered, here's your address. So there's no question. So if something does happen, it's automatically covered. The next one is general contractor's license. I kind of touched on that before. Again, in this area, a lot of the small ones don't have it. It's hard to get. To get your general contractor's license, you have to work on a general contractor for quite a while. You have to have, I think it's over $250,000 in assets and X amount of dollars in the bank. So it's very hard to get. Now you can pull your own permit, but be aware when you do that, the liability is on you if something happens. And typically with your contracting companies, all that's in place. The workman's comp's in place, the general liability is in place, the license is in place, because we're working on a bigger scale model. So we have to make sure we're hitting the industry standards. So the next one is materials being used. I know you're thinking, what? Yes, this really does happen. So to save money, some of the smaller contractors go to supply houses and buy trim. And it's not bad, just making sure it's good so you know that you have a good product. But some of the doors and stuff that are bought at these secondhand supply houses, they typically not good doors. I've been through that. I pulled away from there because it's got us in trouble. We're buying our doors more from a wholesaler now, making sure that we're getting a good quality product. So be careful here because, like I said, to save money, they will cut corners on the material just a little bit. Just so you're aware of that, what to look for and what question to ask before you sign that agreement. This is a big one for me, customer experience, because we want to create a great customer experience. The problem with smaller contractors, they're not set up for good communication, and so sometimes that lacks. So if bad communicator when they start, they're going to be a horrible communicator when they start your job. So be aware of communication. And, as you step up, or as we step up to more of a corporation, communication is a must. When you have a team of people, when you have customers, it's a must. So we're always working on communication. We're always in good communication with the customer so they know every step of the process and what's happening next. Project managers, so that's a cost. Your bigger companies have project managers, your smaller ones, they don't. They're the owner usually. Well, that's cool, but who's checking behind them, right? Everybody needs accountability, and so making sure that you understand that when you're going into it, when you're looking at pricing, because these are things that cost more for a company than it does for smaller individuals. Jack of all trades. I will tell you it's mostly in this category right here because they usually don't have the money to sub that out. And so they want to make more money. So they're learning how to do electrical real quick. They're learning how to do some light plumbing. And maybe when they get in a situation, they have to figure out, well, I got to learn how to do some detailed plumbing. So they try to do everything and they're not good at it, which causes a huge problem. And when you step up to a contracting company, that's when you have a plumber that comes in, you have an electrician that comes in, you have somebody who does sheetrock. So everybody does their trade to make sure you get good quality work. So this is something to really pay attention to and know before you move forward. Reputation and reviews. Word of mouth reputation is good. It's really good. Sometimes it doesn't work out though. I've had those situations where customers call me and say, yeah, I had a great referral from one of my friends. When he done my job, it was horrible. The only way you can really navigate through this, because it's hard, is each job's different, each customer experience is different, but Google reviews, they're hard to get in the construction industry. So imagine this, it's easy to get a Google review when you go to a restaurant because you just put it on there. But when you have a contractor in your house, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, it's kind of like having your your in-laws stand over, right? So it is hard. You really got to have great customer service and quality work. I say that in saying, when looking for a contractor, make sure you're looking one for good quality reviews, because that's where it's at. Word of mouth, if you ask them for references, they're going to give you their best references. That's just what they're going to do. They can't fake Google reviews. A little note, people say that you can put fake reviews up. No, you can't. Google has that locked down. You cannot do it. So they are very, very strict on their reviews. So when you see reviews on the site, they are real and they are not fake, because they watch out for the fake ones. Warranties and guarantees. Just because they say they're going to give you a warranty doesn't mean they're going to stand behind it. So that goes back to Google reviews. That goes back to making sure you're checking behind there, because this is where you can get in trouble. Most of your smaller contractors don't have the bankroll set aside to take care of any kind of redos. If a shower fails, that's a $3,000 to $4,000, $5,000 hit. And so making sure that when you hire a smaller contractor, that they have the bankroll to do that. That's hard to find out. A telltale sign would be if they're asking for a deposit to help pay for materials. That tells you, well, they don't have a bank account to help fund the job. So that means they don't have enough in their savings to help with any warranty. When you step up to a corporation, most of them are going to offer 1 to 3 year warranty. We offer a 3 year warranty, and we firmly stand behind that. If somebody's calling me, we're going. We're fixing it. I don't play with that. I make sure that's taken care of. And honestly, we don't get many warranty calls, which is it's a blessing. But when they do happen, we make sure we're on it. When it comes to this smaller contractor, if somebody's wanting to save some money and they want it done fast, that's where they're going to go. They understand the risk going into it, and that's not a big deal. Sometimes there's a lot of diamonds in the rough here. It's just finding those diamonds in the rough. And of course, homeowners that want a higher class, want a professional service, want the good communication, all that, they're going to go here. And all that being said, I just went through all the reasons or the difference between the two. And so when you do get an estimate from a smaller company, it is going to be a lot less. It is, but you're not getting the coverage that you would get with a bigger company. The warranties, the insurance, all the stuff we talked about, that all stuff cost. And so that's why, and then you're dealing with drawings and architecture and all the other stuff that comes along with it. That's the big reason. So it's not with price gouging anyone. It's just that there's other costs involved that a lot of people just don't know about. So I hope this helped out with that. I hope to answer a lot of questions. I would love to answer any questions you have. I'm sure you probably have more. So just comment below if any of this makes sense, or if you heard any of this, or if you have a question that is not on here, please reach out to me. I'd love to help out with that. I come at this industry really wanting to educate and empower, because there's a lot of things that go wrong in this industry. There's a lot of money being taken from people that just didn't have the proper education as far as when you're going into a remodeling project. Thank you so very much, and I hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys soon.